Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today is part one of a two-part series on sleep. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Many people don't realize that a good night's sleep actually starts in the morning. So having a consistent wake-up time is really critical for optimizing your sleep quality and really for your circadian rhythms. The big question people often ask is what happens if you have a poor night's sleep where you go to bed much later than normal? Should you sleep in to try and make that up? And it's a really good question. In general, the answer is you should actually wake up within about 45 minutes of that usual wake up time. Keep your consistent schedule because it's better to have one bad night of sleep than to sleep in and not be able to fall asleep the next night and then have that turn into 2 or 3 bad nights of sleep. So keeping a good wake-up schedule is important. Another thing that can be helpful to reset your circadian rhythms is exposure to light in the morning, so specifically the sun. Now, people with something called seasonal affective disorder, they use these light boxes, and there's actually a clinical dose of light that is needed to affect their mood, and this also plays into circadian rhythms. So the numbers aren't that important, but just for fun, it's 10,000 lux and it's generally 20 or 30 minutes, so that's what they use. Now, if you want to do this experiment at home, you can download a free app on your phone. It uses the camera. You can look at the lights in your house and you will be surprised at how low the lux or the light dose is. You know, it might be 300 lux. And then if you go outside and to your eye, the brightness will be about the same. Inside your house, you can see just fine, you see just fine outside, but to your eye, when you go outside, the dose could be 30,000 or 100,000 lux. So the message is simple, just get outside, get a little bit of sunlight, 5 or 10 minutes in the morning. That can really help reset your circadian rhythms. It can actually help potentially with metabolic health and it helps improve your quality of sleep. The next thing to talk about is caffeine. So I know that's a touchy subject. The general guideline is to stop caffeine intake about 12 hours before your bedtime. So if you go to bed at 10 p.m., you want to stop your caffeine intake by about 10 a.m. The reason is caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours. And so if you have 1 cup of coffee at 10 a.m., there's still a quarter cup of coffee in your system by 10 p.m. So too much caffeine can not only make it difficult to fall asleep, but even if you fall asleep just fine, it can reduce the quality of your sleep. Another thing, touchy subject number 2, is dark chocolate. So a whole bar of dark chocolate, which granted is a lot, has around 80 milligrams, and that's a rough number of caffeine, but that's more than a shot of espresso. So that's just something else to be aware of. If you're having a lot of dark chocolate after dinner, that could also be playing into your sleep as well. We've talked about the morning routine so far. The last thing to talk about that can sometimes throw off your sleep at night is napping. So it's important if you're gonna take a nap to finish your nap by about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You don't wanna nap too late in the day. And keep your naps to 90 minutes or less. 90 minutes is really the sweet spot because that's the length of one entire sleep cycle. And you also may just want to take a 15 or 20-minute nap. Those naps are better because you're not going to wake up and feel groggy. If you pretty much do anything between 20-ish minutes and 90 minutes, you're waking up in the middle of your sleep cycle, and that's when you have sleep inertia. That's the fancy word for grogginess when you wake up from your nap. So pick one of those 2 times, 20 minutes or 90 minutes, and finish your nap before 2 p.m. Now let's talk about the bedtime routine. So a lot of people think this is a bubble bath and some journal writing, right before bed. It actually is a lot more than that. So this starts about 3 hours before bedtime, and there's 3 critical things to think of at that time. So it's the 3 by 3, I guess. 1 is stopping food intake. So basically anything with calories within 3 hours of bedtime. The reason is it takes about 3 hours to digest your food. So if you eat within that window, then when you fall asleep, instead of your body spending energy on resting, rejuvenating, repairing, it's having to spend energy on digesting your food. So that's one. Second one is alcohol. And I know that's very challenging because the time we drink alcohol is generally in the evening and before bed. But it's for the same thing. You want to let your body metabolize the alcohol before you fall asleep. Otherwise, it definitely will impact your sleep quality. It might help you fall asleep, but the sleep you get is going to be very poor quality. And then the third one, and this is kind of variable from individuals, and that's strenuous exercise. So some people get too overstimulated if they do strenuous exercise within 3 hours of bedtime. Other people, it's okay, so it's just something to be aware of. Another thing to consider as you get ready for bed is your exposure to light. So you want to think about the spectrum of light you're exposed to, i.e. blue light versus red light, as well as the intensity, how bright the light is. So starting with the spectrum, blue light is more disruptive to your sleep and to melatonin secretion than is the more of the red spectrum of light. That's because blue light is most similar to the sun, which makes sense. So one easy way to deal with this is about 2 hours before bedtime is to just turn off like half of the lights in the house. It's really easy to do. You don't have to make any adjustments to things. If you want to be a little bit more particular about it, you could actually buy lights that are like a red incandescent light bulb. And ideally you would put these in a lamp that is like waist level or below, because again, lights above have historically been the sun and have been a signal to your body that it's daytime. So a red light or just any light that's below, that's waist level or below, is a good option. And then the intensity of light, even if it's red, if you have a lot of bright lights, that's still going to disrupt your sleep. So just dimming the lights, ideally red, but even just turning off half the lights in your home is a really good place to start. Another component of exposure to light is that coming from screens, so your phone or laptop, TVs. Now, almost every TV or laptop or tablet, there's lots of apps and just built-in settings where you can reduce the blue light. That's an easy thing that you can do to reduce your exposure to blue light at night, so that's probably worth doing. There's also these funky orange blue blocking sunglasses that has been kind of trendy lately. The research is a little bit mixed on those. I think some people are probably more sensitive and it can be helpful to wear those, especially if you're working on a computer or something within an hour or two of bedtime. Other people, maybe it's not so helpful, and I guess we'll just kind of wait to see what the research shows. But those are just some ideas to kind of reduce your exposure to screens, and that's assuming that you're using them. So in an ideal world, we'd probably not want to use our screens, but I know that's usually not possible. So consider at least putting the blue blocking apps on, or put it in night mode, and potentially even trying the orange glasses. Now let's talk about the bedroom environment. So this is really important to nail this, and a lot of people overlook it. So first, keeping your room clean. There's actually some research that just a clean room can help you sleep better. Similarly, clean air, especially for someone that has asthma or allergies, can be really helpful. So having a HEPA filter, which is just a special type of air filter that filters really fine particulates, can be helpful to have that in the bedroom. There's a plus of it emitting a nice white noise, which can help keep your bedroom quiet. So clean, quiet, those are important. It's also important to keep your bedroom dark. So that could be blackout curtains. It could be even just putting an eye mask on at night, and then you don't have to worry about changing your bedroom too much. But sleeping in a completely dark environment is important, as even just small lights can disrupt your melatonin secretion and decrease the quality of your sleep. You also want to keep your bedroom cool. So there's pretty good research that shows that 65 degrees is the optimal temperature for sleeping. And I guess I should say it's around 65 degrees. But I know this can cause a lot of fights and arguments. Maybe this can help solve some of them. Maybe it will make these arguments worse. But that really is where the research is, 65, maybe 67 degrees. And the reason is your core body temperature needs to drop by about 2 degrees to get into good sleep. So one of the ways the body does that is through this special type of skin called glabrous skin. So that's on the palms of your hands, the soles of your feet, and your face. So the skin in these areas is really good at getting rid of heat. And so as the body is getting into sleep, it increases circulation to those areas to let off heat to drop your core body temperature. So that's why you're welcome to layer up. You don't have to be freezing. You can put on as many blankets as you want, but your face is still going to be exposed. The body can still get rid of heat there. If you get hot, kicking out a foot is actually a really effective way to lower your core body temperature. So keep the bedroom cool. That's important. Keeping your bed comfortable, it's obvious, but a mattress that you like, a pillow, sheets that are comfortable, that's important. If you're a side sleeper, putting a pillow between your knees to keep your spine aligned, that can also be helpful. Some people also like this thing called a weighted blanket, especially if you have anxiety. It's kind of like a heavier blanket. It kind of feels like a big hug all night. So some people really like those. It might be worth a try. And then you want to remove alarm clock faces from view. You don't have to remove all the alarm clocks from your room. That could be bad. But you don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and see 232 staring at you in the face, and that can create some anxiety of falling back asleep. So if you get rid of the alarm clock or the clock faces, that's really helpful. Now, how much sleep do you need? Well, research is pretty clear that most adults need around 7 to 9 hours. And if you've ever tracked with an Oura Ring or an Apple Watch, a Whoop, any of these trackers, you'll learn that the 8 hours that you think you're sleeping, there's actually a significant amount of time where you're not. And even if you don't know you're waking up, it's just part of the natural sleep cycles as you kind of wake up for a little bit and you go back into a sleep cycle. So the general rule of thumb is if you need 8 hours of actual sleep, you need to be in bed for 9 hours of sleep opportunity to get that. So I know that sounds like a lot, but getting enough sleep is really foundational. It's critical for overall health, mental health, brain health. So prioritizing that is really important. Similarly, you want to train your brain that your bed is for sleeping. So you don't want to be on your laptop, you don't want to be scrolling on your phone before bed, watching TV. Those are all things that will push you away from getting a good night's sleep. And so try and avoid all of those things. You really don't even want to have a TV in your bedroom. I know that's a hard one. And then if you lay down to sleep and you've been in bed for say 15 or 20 minutes and you can't fall asleep, you don't want to just keep laying there. You want to get up out of bed, go into another room. You can read, you meditate, do some deep breathing, whatever it is you want to do, and then come back to bed when you're a little bit more tired. I hope some of this information has been helpful to optimize your bedroom environment and your overall sleep routine, and I hope that you've learned that a good night's sleep starts way before you get into bed. It starts in the morning and getting some sunlight and resetting the circadian rhythms, not getting caffeine, napping too late, all that good stuff. So we really appreciate you tuning in, taking your time to watch these videos. If you're enjoying the content, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends, all that good stuff. We also will have an accompanying blog post that we put on our website. We try to put out as much good information on there as we can. So check that out as well. And we will see you for part 2. Part 2 is going to be about supplements, sleep medications, and non-supplement, non-medication remedies when you're having trouble falling asleep. So we'll see you next time.